I wanted to change the generation. My granddad was locked up, my dad was locked up, I was locked up. Here's my son. I said, that's it. I'm going to change this whole generation. So I'm welling up, and my throat is closing on me because I'm going. My family are standing at the finish line with an Ireland flag. They visited me in prison about 2.5 years ago. They're coming down to visit me in prison now as I got a job as a coach in Oberstown Juvenile Centre, teaching kids out there, venting a negative into a positive, but also using my experience from the streets to tell them that it's not worth it. You know, there's only two ways out: it's prison and it's death. And they tend to listen to me because I've been there and I know how to talk to them. Where someone goes in with a degree that hasn't been there, they tend not to listen. You can't tell me to shut up, but I don't know, because I know it's like for the door to be banged out. Do you know what I mean?
Ger, thanks very much for sitting down there, mate. I appreciate you taking the time. We'll get into I suppose we'll get into your growing up and your background there in a bit. But just for anyone who doesn't know, can you give us an idea kind of what it is you do now?
At the moment, I'm a coach in a detention centre for juveniles in a place called Lusk in Dublin. And I basically coach the kids out there to vent a negative into a positive. Coming from a prison background myself, I served 2 years in prison, got out in 2016 and took up triathlon in 2017, and I was a professional triathlete in 22 months. So I went from prison to pro. That's my hashtag. So that's who I am.
Oh, very good, very good. Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning, I suppose, because I suppose your path until your path up until now has been a fairly unique one. Can you give us an idea there, where you grew up, and the part of Dublin, kind of what it was like when you were coming up?
Yeah, so I grew up in a place called Darndale, which is on the north side of Dublin. It's a deprived area. It's still to this day a deprived area. Growing up was, I lived in a home of my mother and father would have been very young when they had me. They were like 16 years of age. So they were very young themselves, which look that would carry, I suppose that would carry their own problems and what they endured. I suppose kids bringing up kids, if you like, at that age. The home was never a home as such. I don't think my mother and father ever learned good. I'd say my father would have learned good traits and good learned behaviors from his family to a certain extent. My nanny was a really lovely, holy person, went to church at that. My granddad would have been different. He'd had a different sort of mindset. He's in the army, that a bit more stricter. So that would have been passed down to my dad. And my dad was a bit, yeah, he was a bit strict. He'd hit you for nothing. I was sort of bullied in the house, and there was never much in the house. The house was cold all the time. I remember being locked in rooms for 2 or 3 days at a time. I remember looking out windows waiting for the parents to come back. You were scared to go out the door in case they caught you and gave you a few slaps, and you're also scared that he didn't come home. So you're like caught in between. It was a cold home. And that caused its traumas with myself. But you know what? There was one thing I loved was soccer. I felt like I was part of a family when I went out playing soccer with the lads. And I don't know whether I know I was really good at soccer because I later on got a trial and secured a YTS with a Scottish team. But I think I just felt a togetherness when I played sport in general. And as the story goes on, you'll see any sport I sort of took up, I became really good at. But I suppose the soccer was the first love for me, John. I absolutely loved soccer in every aspect. I couldn't understand how people couldn't pass the ball. But like at the same time, growing up down there, like there was constantly rob cars around. You're always seeing like bad things happening, but you never knew anything better because you never were outside of them walls, if that makes sense. So my environment shaped me who I became and I suppose who I am today, which has become a good thing for me because I've become a better person and I've got out of that sort of mindset of living in that environment. That could have an opposite effect. I could not have got out of there, which a lot of people don't. I just had the ability or whatever, the willpower to want better for my family. But I know a lot of people who are still stuck in that sort of mindset of that environment that they think that's normal, and it's so hard to get out sometimes. So that was sort of my upbringing. We emigrated to Germany at the age of 10, went to Hamburg and then to Hilsen. My mother had a sister over there. And I think my parents, because they were struggling and weren't nothing was happening sort of in Dublin. I think, yeah, no, I think they thought by moving it was going to change something, but it was never going to change because in hindsight, like moving, you can move any corner of the world, but if you don't change yourself within and get the confidence within yourself and sort of deal with your problems and stop drinking and all, no matter where you go, you're going to fail, So, but I think in their heads, they thought we go over here be a fresh start. For sure, look, we were in that house, I think, for 8 months and we got thrown out. I think there was an argument over money or something. There was a grant given, and I think the family took the grant and my father wasn't happy with that. But sure, we were living there for free. But anyway, look, that's a different story. But just it was a failure again. And then we moved to London and the same thing. We were living in a B&B. I was going to school there for about a year. And again, we failed, moved back to basically where we started. Got a house down in Ferry Carrick, which is it's about a kilometre from Darndale, So we didn't really go too far, really, but it was an experience. But looking back, it was just like, I suppose, it taught me a lesson that you can't run away from your problems. You got to sort your shit at home. Like it's like a drug addict moving to a different part of the country. If they're still a drug addict and they don't resolve their issues, they're gonna, no matter where they go, it's gonna be that temptation, So you need to sort your shit out, I think. But anyway, look, we moved to Ferry Carrick then, and as I said, I was really good at the soccer, and I joined a team called St. Columban's, and I knew that the scout was coming, and I scored 10 goals in one game, and I got offered a trial with Dunfermline in Scotland, which was massive in them days. Like, it was unheard of going over there.
Sorry to cut in. What age are you at this stage, and how many siblings have you?
I'm 15 and I have 2 sisters and 3 brothers, and the mum and dad are still in the house. Now, look, every time I went home, there was trouble. Like, weekly, there was trouble. It was like every time my ma got paid, she went to the pub and just wouldn't come over there till money was spent. And then that would trigger my dad off and he'd run amok. And then he'd go on the rip and then he'd be out for the weekend. And it was like just an ongoing thing. The house constantly being smashed up a window or something be done, or my mother be getting a hiding, or it was a constant, just, you couldn't go into the house and think, I'm gonna go in here and get a fresh meal now and sit in front of the telly and no one's gonna annoy me, or someone's gonna sit down and do me homework with me. It was chaos all the time. So, like, I'm not surprised the volcano erupted when it did. But anyway, I went over and played for Dunfermline, and I remember playing FIFA the week of going over. I was playing FIFA at my friend's house, and I was being Dunfermline, and I was like, I'm going to meet these players. It was unreal. Like, as I said, it was me. Soccer was the love of my life, John, and I mean that. Like, anyone out there that knows anything about sport and they get really embarked in it, they understand what I'm saying. It really was. And then when I went over there, look, I was so confident. The minute I got that trial, I just got this confidence that that's it. I've made it. Bit naive, but like, you need that. But I was like, that's it. I have my opportunity, and I'm gonna take it. I remember going over, and I went straight to a match. So I got off the flight, went straight to a game. They were playing Falkirk. They were losing 3-1, and I'm on the bench, brand new gear. I've never wore brand new gear, just from where we are from. Like, I'd new boots, new shin guards, new socks, shorts. I was rubbing my hands together. Couldn't believe it. They were losing 3-1, went off the bench. I scored 2 and laid up the winner, and we won 4-3. I'm not messing with you. I was like, that's it. I'm gonna be signed 100%. The confidence was oozing out of me. I knew the ability I had, and it just shined through on the pitch. So Falkirk put in for an offer for me, which was refused, and then the firm signed me as a YTS. It's like a youth training scholarship, and I signed a 2-year contract on that. And East End Road was my home for a good few months, 6 months, I think it was. I was living in an annex over a pub in East Fife. I was getting paid on a week. I was getting a wage slip every week, like, to play football. Like, I was loving it. I was going in and I was washing pros' boots, and like, that's part of it. Part of the apprenticeship as a soccer player. That's what you do. I had no problem doing that. I thought that was amazing. And then you'd go out and get the bus and they'd give you a lift into town, and their BMWs, their Mercs and all. And it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. And all the new gear. I used to love getting the new gear. You'd never get new stuff, new jerseys, new tracksuits, and yeah, it was unreal. But a few months into that, I got a call from home. My father committed a crime, a horrific crime at home, And I asked the coach, could I go home to see, was everything all right? My mother was a drinker, heavy drinker. Um, and I'm not getting saying that my mother had a lot of trauma from her. She lost her mother at a young age, and I only realised that now, sort of as I got older and I worked on myself. I understood, my mother must have had a pretty hard life, and to put up with whatever she was putting up with, and then she lost. I don't think she ever had a father, but her mother, I know she died at an early age. That would take its toll and have its own problems, But yeah, so when I went home and I got off that flight, I didn't realise, but I was going to go down a deep dark hole and go down the wrong road. And when I got to the house, it was boarded up, and my mother was actually in there drinking with people off the road, and the brothers and sisters was upstairs, and it was just horrific, and it was like a horror show. So I had two choices really. One, I could go back over to the farm and play the soccer and sort of, like not forget about them, but try and put myself first and concentrate on my career. And the other option was to stay, look after them, be the man of the house. But what that would entail would be to join a criminal gang, one for protection, and two to put food on the table. Because the family that my dad committed a crime, manslaughter, and the family that he committed that on, they wanted revenge on us. And the only way I could see getting out of that at the age of 15, 16 was to join the criminal gang for a little bit of backup, which I ended up doing. That sent me right down the wrong road. Uh, like I, yeah, the trauma from that, I didn't even know what trauma was at that stage, but I was taking drugs and drinking and doing all this stuff. I thought I was being one of the lads, but when I took the drugs, I was able to talk, and I wasn't able to talk when I didn't take them. Again, I didn't understand. I'm only 16, 17 at this stage, and you don't understand what you're doing. You're not listening to certain people who would be trying to help you from, because I know now because I work in the prison, and the people out there trying to help the kids are really people that are genuinely want to help you. But you don't see that, anyone that comes near you for help, you just tell them to go away. You just think you just don't trust adults, in general, because you've been let down by adults so long. So I had a big trust issue with adults. Ended up in a criminal gang, ended up moving up the ladder pretty quick because I had a lot of negative energy, and I had no problem losing my life. I wouldn't bother me. Like I sort of gave up then. Once I lost that professional career, I gave up on life really, to be honest with you. And yeah, I was surprised I survived it, to be honest with you. I was suicidal many a times. 2013, then I got prison sentence, 3 years suspended, and that was reactivated for Misuse of Drugs Act, which is I had drugs then. I was caught with drugs um, on the night I got suspended, believe it or not. So I got 2 years for that in prison. Went to Mountjoy, spent time in Mountjoy. Um, I remember sitting in this prison cell the first night, and when my dad got locked up, I was like, I was disappointed, and I was like, how could you do that? And then it hit me then going, I've been saying this all along, and now I've just done that with my kids. I had 3 kids at this time. So that was a bit of a realization into myself, to think like, you're slagging your dad, and here you are doing the same thing. So I spent 2 years there anyway, and when I got out of prison, a couple of things happened. Like I remember sitting in the prison cell and just my life flashing in front of me, and just like, where's my life gone? Like I was a professional footballer at one stage, and it just went so quick. And I'm sitting here in the prison cell going, because when you're in prison, like you've time to think, obviously, when you're outside, it's just all chaotic, and you're doing all sorts of drugs and whatever, drinking. It's just fast, fast, fast. But when you go into prison, everything slows down, and you have lots of time to think. So I had that time to think, I suppose, and I wasn't doing as much drugs or drinking. I wasn't doing any drugs or drinking, to be honest, in prison. So that realization just hit me, and it just flashed, and I was like, "Geez, where's my life gone?" But I honestly thought that my life was over then, because I'd been convicted, and they said no one's ever going to give me a job, and I sort of gave up on life. Go back out. I started doing the exact same thing. Went back in the same guy. Two things happened, I suppose. One, I was talking to a friend of mine. He had a son, and my wife, my my fiance at the time, was due with my son. I have 4 girls and a boy, and I was always waiting for the boy, and she was due. And I remember asking my friend about his son. His son was 4 or 5 at the time, and he was like, "Oh, it's great. We go camping, we do this, and we're just having chats." And my friend died 2 weeks later. He took a drug out, didn't take a drug overdose. He took drugs and he died in his sleep. And I remember being at the funeral, and the kid walked up to the funeral, and I was like, the kid walked up to the dad, and all the kid wanted was love. And all he wanted was that was to play with him. He didn't want any material or money. And this sort of hit me, and I looked down and I said, if I can't learn this and I continue on doing what I'm doing, I could possibly put my kids through what I'm seeing here now. And that just to me was evil, you know. And I just said, you know what, I'm better than that. And that day I just made a decision. I was done. I actually just said, you know what, I'm done. I'm getting out of this life. I'm never gonna do anything like that again. I'm never gonna jeopardize that. And the thing was the realization as well. Like we had a chat, a few of us in the pub after, and like each and one of every one of us would have gave every possession we had to give that man back his life, which meant to me that it really meant nothing what we were doing. We were just justifying in our heads, thinking that we're selling drugs to provide for our families, right? Because that's the way we grew up. And everyone just justified that because you think that's normal, but it's not normal. But that day, I just, yeah, that was it. I was done. I swore I'd never do that again, and I haven't to this day. Then in October, my son Ross was born. So my boy was born, and I remember looking at him going, because my dad used to say to me, "Don't drink, don't do drugs, don't be in gangs, don't do this," and he'd done all of them, and he was, and I'm looking at him doing them, and I was like, you know what, he's full of shit, like, and I don't want, I'm not a bullshitter, you know. If I'm saying, if I'm telling you to do a marathon, I'm doing a marathon. If I'm telling you to do whatever, I'm doing it, or I've done it, you know. I'm not a bullshitter. So I swore that I would, when I tell my kid not to do something, I would be the man, and he would see my actions and follow my footsteps. So yeah, I wanted to change the generation. My granddad was locked up, my dad was locked up, I was locked up. Here's my son. I said, that's it. I'm going to change this whole generation, and he's going to look up to me as his hero, and that's it. Nothing more to it. So yeah, I decided to
Sorry,
get
can I
out. Yeah.
just for a quick second, can I take it back a bit? You said your father he committed manslaughter. What was it like? What was the feeling like of having to, we'll say, live with the consequences of someone else's bad decision? Because it's one thing if you do something, you're like, look, okay, I have to deal with what comes because of this, but that wasn't even you. Do you remember how that felt at that
Oh,
age?
just
Like,
shame. Like I used to walk around the streets with my head down because I felt people were looking at me, not saying I done it, but looking at me going, that's his son, you know, that's that family, you know. And that was happening, like, but you know, as a kid, you're not strong enough to go, it wasn't my fault. I'm gonna hold my head high. I've done nothing wrong here. As a kid, you're just letting that in. You don't have the confidence to understand the severity of what happened, but also understand that I'm not taking the burden of this. This is not my burden to take. I haven't done that. And yeah, I emphasize with what happened a whole lot, but like it's not my fault, you know what I mean? I haven't done it, and I shouldn't have to feel guilt for that, you know what I mean? I really shouldn't
sure.
have to. Like I do. There's a lot of emotions inside me on what happened, but at the same time, you know, I didn't do it. But like, yeah, so I was a lot of shame, and I was chased a lot of the times. I've often went to parties. I was refused from parties because of it. It's just followed me around all my life, really, you know that way. So yeah,
Right. You you said the part of your reason for joining up with like your crime gang was to have some backing, to have a bit of protection if the blowback from that decision came over to you. Can you talk me through a little about maybe about how a fella kind of moves up, like what what would they have you doing when you first joined, and then from then on, like,
Yeah, so when you first join, you're dropping stuff off, really. You're just a gilly, you're holding stuff in your house, you're just doing the stupid jobs, you know what I mean? The monkey jobs, the job people don't want to do. It's called a gilly, that's what they call you. You know what I mean? That's what you are. You collect cash, your man's sitting around doing nothing, you're doing all the work. And that's basically what you do. You do everything he doesn't want to do. The risky jobs, you know. They also know that a juvenile will not get a sentence because you know you get a JLO first, and then you know eventually you will. But the first sort of charge, they tend to get a lighter sentence or the JLO. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, but like obviously the older lads would get a stiffer sentence. Not that way, so they do use you to that advantage. Um, so yeah, that's what I done. But you know, I was just too aggressive, and I didn't give a. I didn't respect them the way they wanted to be respected. So that way, because I had no empty, I didn't give a shit. Like I had given up. Like so, I didn't really have too much. I had respect, but I also wasn't taking shit. You know. So I got to a point where I was like, I'm not fucking doing that anymore. I can do this myself. You know what I mean? I don't care. Like I'll take risks. So I was willing to take risks. So yeah, once you move up, then um, once they see that you don't take shit, they sort of know you're ballsy, and then you get more respect, and you know what I mean. They want you around them, and then you become their muscle as well. Then you know what I mean. So then you become part of the gang because you're an asset. Once you become part of the gang, then you become trusted, and you know, then they sort of test you in a way as well. You can be tested as well. But yeah. So once you move up, then I suppose it depends on what the dealings are. You can get in as much as you want, but you have to be clever as well, because if you get in too deep, you know, you could be you have your head taken off. You know what I mean? There's risks. So the street sense, I suppose, the streets have taught me a lot as well. Not a lot of people take on board street sense, but if you can use it, you can use it to your advantage. You know what I mean? I wasn't stupid. You know, I was willing to take risks, but I wasn't stupid at the same time. You know.
I was going to ask you, amongst the fellas who be in the gang and who kind of hang around with them, did you come across other fellas who kind of had similar, maybe like similar traumas and so on, that they wouldn't be able to deal with healthily or anything like that?
You know, like a lot of people talked about back then, you know, you'd only realize someone you wouldn't even know. I wouldn't know what trauma was back then. It was all normal because people hadn't got mothers and fathers. People had fathers that were locked up. Mine was more severe because of the nature of the crime that my father committed. So that was a bit more severe and a bit more highlighted, you know, that way, because of the nature of it. But look, I'm sure everyone I hung around with had. There was some, because you know what, you'd notice when you went into someone's home, you'd notice the feeling. I noticed the different feelings when I went into certain friends' home. It was warm. They had food. The mother would bring you in. How's things? You know, different attitudes. You go into someone that gaffed the and run you from the door. Fuck off. You know what I mean? So you sort of knew what gaff to go into, what was cold, what you know. So that was sort of give me an indication, because I was hanging around a different place up in Clonshock, which was more of a posher area than where I was from. I felt it was nice up there, and that's where I sort of my journey sort of carried me up there for some reason. It was a nicer place. Not nicer people, but they weren't always arguing, they weren't always fighting. I sort of wanted to get away from that. The lads weren't bullies, you know what I mean? They just wanted a bit of fun. That's all I wanted. Whereas when I was hanging around Coolock and Darndale, I was fighting all the time. Constantly, I'd go over and you just get into a scrap every night nearly. Just stupid things. So I wasn't into that. So I wanted to sort of an easier life. But then when I went up there, there was a bit more structure in the families up there, and you sort of noticed the difference when you moved into when you went to your mate's house. You go, Jesus, this is different. I've never seen this before. It's warm. The mother and father say hello to you, you know, that eating their dinner, and you know, just different structures. Like, geez, that's living, you know what I mean? So then you know sort of that you've missed out on so much, you know that way.
Right. Did you get the sense that amongst the gang there was fellas who it might not have been a conscious thing, but they were looking for some sort of some kind of sense of family, or belonging, like what you kind of found with the sport
Yeah, like
earlier.
amongst ourselves, like you know, we do anything for each other. We were always out. We'd never actually be in hardly in the house, like you know, way. Even the school time, we bonk off school, so we felt that we had a bit of a bond, you know, way. Especially the lads that didn't have much of, especially the lads that didn't have that family unit at home. You'd notice them out more. Do you know what I mean? Like me, I would go out at probably 12 in the day, and I wouldn't come home late at night. Do you know what I mean? And that'd be that. So no one telling me what to do, you know what I mean? But I felt safer and I felt more comfortable out with the lads. I suppose when I went back to the house, it triggered me trauma, and I felt unsafe and I felt cold, and that's what happens when you have trauma. Um, it can be triggered in certain ways. And for me, it was when I went back to the house, it triggered, because I was like, "There's no one here. My man, dad's not here." Like my mother moved out. She went to Liverpool with another man a month after that happened. So myself, my sister was left to look after 4 kids under the age of 10. Do you know what I mean? So my father got locked up. He went straight into custody on remand, yeah. Before you're sentenced, you go into custody. You can get bail or you can get not bail. He didn't choose to get bail. I don't know if he'd have been given that anyway, but he ended up, you go to custody, and you wait for your sentencing. You can apply for high court bail, and you might get it, you're given a surety of, I don't know, 10, 20 grand. He never asked for it. So he was left in prison straight away. When that happened, bang, he was in. And then my mother left to help. And I think that triggered my mother as well. She couldn't handle the trauma. So she needed to get away from all that. And she went, she went off with another man to Liverpool a month after all that happened and left me and my sister 16 and 17 and look after 4 kids under the age of 10. So that's why I sort of made the decision to stay over. I was like, what do you do? Like, you know what I mean? Can't leave her on their own with them. And we're getting threatened. So that was the decision. I was sort of forced in a sense, you know what I mean? To make that decision to stay there. And yeah, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, at that age too. I mean, geez, it must have felt like the weight of the world. Like, so okay, so you were actually like, not just minding them, like being there, but I mean, being the breadwinner and
No,
actually putting.
my sister, I have to give credit to my sister for all that. Like, there was obviously like, getting social welfare and all. Like, I wasn't great. I was more like my learned behaviours was I was the man that made sure nothing happened to them. So I made sure no one went near them. I was the protector. That's what I thought. And she like I done little bits around the house. You know what I mean? There was holes in the wall. I fixed that. I got the house painted. You know, stuff like that. But my sister, I have to give credit to my sister. She was the rock of all. To be honest, with you, like I just protected them. You know that way. And made sure no one came near them. That was my job. I felt that that's what I can do. You know, and that's what I done. I did do that. I've done it for years and years. Like when
Okay,
anyone
so
said that, yeah,
the safety and security aspect was what you took care of. Yeah.
yeah. Anyone said that, and I done that, and I would step in and I'd back them up. My sister made the dinners and get them the comfort and cooked and cleaned, and do you know what I mean? We just done our best at that age. That's all you can do. You don't know any better. But I remember for years, like even up until a few years ago, like I had no confidence, and I used to say to myself, "When will I get this back?" I was like, I was just absorbed. Everything. I just lost everything. The whole everything just drained down me. Confidence, self belief. I was the most confident person to ever meet when I was playing soccer. I played for the Dublin team. I played for the Irish Skills team. I was getting picked. I won the Leinster I won the All Ireland Soccer Skills Championship and led Ireland out onto the Lansdowne Road, right? And there was no one there, none of my family. Like nuts, like you know what I mean? Like you're winning these mad competitions, all Ireland Soccer Skills. A TD from me road, hey, Anthony something from Ferrycarrick. He seen me playing out in the streets and put me into this competition, right? Brought me to every competition all over Leinster, and I beat everybody everywhere. Went to Lansdowne Road then on the day of the match and had the final, and I beat everyone from Ulster, Munster, and Connacht. The 4 provinces had 4 top players, and I beat every one of them and led the team out. And there was no one like to me. That's like if my son does that, it's amazing. I'm there supporting. So stuff like that. I'd be like, geez, like I mean, I wasn't looking for much. I was looking for them to say, "Well done." That's it. Little bit of support. You go home and tell them, be like, "Oh yeah, very good." Be like a nothing thing. It's fucking mental to win something like that. But look at you live and learn. You're the live and learn. You don't. You know what I mean? I have, thank God.
Okay, so when you did get sentenced, you said you got suspended, and then the actual years got activated. Um, where was it? Where was it that you went? Was it Mountjoy? You said.
Went to Mountjoy. Yeah, I was in Mountjoy, and then I went on to the training unit, which is a non-drugs unit. And then I went to an open prison, which is in Shelton Abbey in Arklow. So I finished my sentence there.
I see.
So
Did the affiliation you had with the gang you were with, did that kind of influence, or sorry, did it have any effect on your prison time, either meaning that maybe you'd be a bit protected, or you would also have enemies kind of pre-made coming in?
no enemies. Do you know what? I didn't need anyone because I went in and got my head down, and I had 3 kids at the time. So my theory was, look, I get in here, go to school, go to the gym. Didn't want to bring the kids up to the prison. Didn't like that. Didn't want to do that. So I said I'll get the open prison and I'll bring them to that. So yeah, look at me, and I'm not saying I was a great prisoner or anything, but I just got my head down and got on my sentence. I didn't cause any hassle. I went to the gym as much as I could. I got a job in the kitchen. I done my junior cert. I played the guitar. Just fulfilled my day and just done my time. I suppose didn't want any hassle off anyone, so I never needed anyone to step in as such, or call on someone or say I had no enemies. You know that way. So
It would it be the case? Would it be the case that if you do what you did, which is just kind of keep the head down and don't bring any trouble on yourself, that you will avoid trouble? Or is it the case that I mean that maybe fellas were there some fellas who would avoid trouble, and by doing that they would kind of draw they would draw someone who'd want to victimize them, for a soft target, like.
yeah, you have to have a bit about yourself. Do you know what I mean? People know. People aren't stupid. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't be walking around soft. I'd know how to talk. Do you know what I mean? I'd know. You know yourself when you meet someone. You know he's an idiot. You know he's there's a bit about him. Do you know what I mean? I was quiet, but I had a bit about me. You know what I mean? I was in the gym twice a day. I was fairly big. I was doing pull-ups. So no one to go near the pull-up bar. So that's where I was. I was always on the pull-up bar. So I'd be doing 100 pull-ups, 10 tens every time I went down. I was I was fairly built. You know what I mean? I was just quiet. But people know, like people who are, they do. You see them in there. You see people. They're quiet, but they're solid. They're not taking drugs. They're quiet, and you know what they say: stay away from the quiet ones. you know. So yeah, like that. Yeah, you
I
get
see, I
worried.
see.
Yeah.
On that note, amongst the, we'll say the higher level fellas in the gangs back in Dublin, would the guys who were near the top of that hierarchy, would they kind of have something different about them? Would there be a different sort of intensity, or just a different coldness to them or something?
Just clever, just clever. And a lot of them are money driven. And the thing is about them lads, a lot of them lads, if they just put their emphasis into a positive company, they'd be better than the businessmen that are out there because you know why? Because they have core values, some of them. A lot of people with street sense, they have actually values where they don't. Like, look at, I know people say that's probably bullshit, but I know a lot of people out there who are up to no good, but they still have values. Do you know what I mean? They're not looking to rip people off. They'll give you their word. 90% of them top people that are to give you that word, they stick to that word. You know what I mean? But look at there's always that cutthroat game. You know what I mean? As you say, you never trust anyone in that game. You know that way. People will take you. People will set you up. I think if it to a certain extent, if there's pressure put on by a certain person, or if they owe a certain bill out and they need to save their own gravy, they're gonna do it, and you just can't trust anyone in that game, I don't think. But there is people out there that have a good word, they do. Like I've seen it. And you have to trust to a certain extent in that game. Um, you do have to trust. But yeah, no, they would be clever. You would see they'd have a bit about them. They wouldn't be saps, you know what I mean? They wouldn't be, there's a lot of people out there that are mouths, and a lot of people out there that they talk shy. So you sort of know the people don't talk shit, you know what I mean? They're the sort of people who go further in the game and they're a bit more clever and they're not buying all this stuff and flaunting it about, you know what I mean? They're in the background. So you sort of know, yeah.
So I,
The people who are the mouths and the people who are wearing all the stuff are usually the idiots, you know what I mean? That's normally the way it goes. It's the quiet
yeah,
ones that you be aware of, it's that they're usually the clever ones.
right. Okay. So you did your 2 years as a bit in Mountjoy, and then you ended up in an open prison. Okay. So you came out. You said earlier that you were at the funeral of a friend and his son. So yeah. Do you want to take it from there? I just wanted to go back a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, the son walked up to the coffin, as I was saying, and that was the realization that the son only wanted love and care and didn't want material stuff. And because a lot of the people who are doing that are doing it to provide for their families, and that's why you're justifying in the mind. Because when you grow up in a deprived area, you don't see people with good jobs. That's not your inspiration. You see people selling drugs, and that's where they make the money, and that's how the house are nice, and that's how they have the cars. So that's what you know. So that's where you follow. But at that stage, I said, you know what? The kids only want love. They only want the dad to play with them. That's all he wanted. So that was enough for me. And then, as I said, my partner was married, pregnant at the time with my son. And I just said, if I continue on what I'm doing, after the realization of what's happening here, and I possibly put my kids through this, what I've seen, I just seen that as evil. And I said, I can't do that. I'm not evil. I couldn't put my kids through that. And I possibly could have happened if I'd have continued on the road I was on. So that was it for me. I was done. I said, that's it, and done. So it took me a while to get out of the gangs, and there's a certain way of doing it, and there was money owed and whatever. But I got out, and my son was born on 20, I'm gonna get this wrong, 28th of October. The wife always gives out to me. I always get the kids, I think I got it right, 28th of October in 2016. And I was married then in August 27th. Yeah. So I was married, and I had my son, which I was looking for years, because I had 4 girls and 1 boy. Um, and I did want to be a good man. I did want to be a good husband, but it was hard to get out. But then when the son was born, then it was like I wanted to change my generation. I wanted them to look up to me, because, as I said, my granddad was locked up, my dad was locked up, and then with me. And I was like, if I continue on this generation and I don't take the reins of this generation right now and turn it around and start creating new opportunities and start changing the whole dynamics of the generation, if I don't start doing that, he's going to follow in my footsteps, whether I like it or not. And believe it or not, if you change yourself, automatically you change everything around you. You don't even have to try. You just have to change you, and they just see what you're doing. They automatically want to be like you, because you're the hero no matter what. Whether it's negative or positive, they're going to look up to you. So that's what I was saying. So I took up triathlon, met a friend of mine, Mick, went to watch him doing Barcelona, Ironman Barcelona in October 20 in October 2018. Yeah, 2000. No, October 2016. Went to watch him doing an Ironman. And I thought to myself, maybe I could do that. Couldn't swim, never been on a time trial bike, which is a TT. Do you have a time trial bike?
No.
Never been on one. It has bars in front of it, and you put your elbows on the pads and you hold on to the bars in front, and you get down in the narrow position. It's called a TT. So a road bike could be different. You'd be sitting up. This one you're down and the elbows are out in front like that. Yeah. But I've never been on one of them, and I've couldn't swim, couldn't do one length. But I said, you know what, I need a different direction, and I need to prove to people that I have changed. And I know if we do this Ironman, that will prove to a certain extent that I have changed and I am out of the gangs. Now, an Ironman is 3.8 swim in the sea, 180k on the bike, and a full marathon, 42.2k.
Jesus, yeah. That's mental.
But so I took that up in 2017. I was going down doing swims. I couldn't do one length of a 25-meter pool when I started. I'm not messing with you. I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. But I just, I realized now what I done was I just changed the way I pushed me negative. So I went from pushing the negative into crime, and I went from pushing that into a positive. And I used that as a trauma. So look, if you go through, like when you're a trauma sufferer, you have crutches, right? And when the trauma comes, the emotions comes, you need something to fulfill that feeling. So to get rid of that emotion, so you don't want to sit with the trauma, so you need something. So training was that for me. Before, when I was in the gang, I was drinking drugs. When I felt it, I just went to the pub, went doing drugs, or whatever it may be, or gambling or something. So you don't want to sit with the trauma. So these are crutches that you have, right? It'd be drink, it'd be drugs, it'd be women, it'd be gambling. It could be anything. Different people get different kicks out of different things, and it fulfills it for them. So I went from the negative crutches to now the positive crutches, which was sport. And I vented all my trauma through sport. And within like a month or two, I was doing like 50, 60k on the bike, 10 and 20k runs. And then I was up to 1 and 2k swims. And like I was like, geez, I'm getting through this. Like, but that's all I was doing. I was using it as a tool to stem the trauma, if that makes sense. And as I got better, I got more into it. And I was using it as to an extreme now, right? So after 7 months, 8 months in August, I remember going to Maastricht, which was the full Ironman was in Maastricht, which is in Holland. I'd done the sprint triathlon, the Olympic, and the half 70.3 triathlon. So you do the three disciplines before. So there's four disciplines, four races: sprint, Olympic, 70.3, and the 140.6. That's the full, yeah. So I'd done the other three, and the full was in August. It was on my daughter's birthday, August the 6th. And I remember standing in Maastricht, and I didn't even know I was going to finish at this stage. But I just got this whoosh. I stand around these people, all these positive, like-minded people. They were only there for the race. There was no messing. There was no drug deal. There was no one looking for that and off, you know. And I just felt so relieved that I had made this decision. I felt so good. I felt so positive. And I just got this realization that, Jay, you've changed your life. You really have. Like, it was 8 months after, and I still was on this road. I remember jumping into the water and just taking me first stroke on. I just hope I can get through this, you know. But I got through a 3.8 swim, delighted. 140, I think I done an hour and 40, got on the bike, got the bike done. I was delighted. It was a beautiful day out. I was having a great time, you know. I was just going around going, wow, look at what I've done. It was just such a surreal moment and a beautiful moment, and I had a great time. But then when I got to the run, people were saying you're going to suffer in an Ironman because it's such a huge endurance race that when you get to the run part, it's a marathon. You're going to suffer where, you know, you're in a heap and you can't, your mind's telling you to stop. And I didn't suffer. I went looking for it. I was like, this isn't pain. Like, you don't know pain if you think this is pain. Sport was not a pain to me. So I went looking for this. So I strived on that pain. When that pain came, I was loving it. I was going hard and fast and looking for more pain. This was just, like, as I was saying, it was just curing my trauma, which was great in a sense, because it made me a better athlete. I finished that race in 11 hours. I remember finishing, and I just got this self-belief. Just washed over me. I was like, geez, like, I done a 3:08 marathon, I think, you know. So it was great. And someone said, like, did you not suffer? I said, that wasn't suffering to me. I've suffered enough in my life, and that was not suffering. So I decided to test the suffering and to test where this was coming from. I didn't know what I was doing at the minute. I didn't know it was through trauma. So I've done Lanzarote, which is the toughest Ironman in the world. It's 2,400 meters elevation. It has about 30 kilometers an hour winds against you, and about 30 degrees heat for the run, 33 degrees. So it's an extreme. It's the toughest in the world. I've done it 3 times now, and it is the toughest. I've done all the toughest in the world. That's the toughest.
Oh my God. I was going to say training in Ireland wouldn't
No,
prepare you for fucking Lanzarote at all.
well, it does because it's a winter training. Because it's in May, so you have to winter training. Training oil and winter training really strengthens the mind because it's so tough, because it's so cold. So that actually makes you actually mentally strong for that race. But I turned up in Lanzarote, and I done the swim, come out onto the bike, and my coach was doing it with me, right? And I went by my coach at 110 kilometers. So I knew, and he was doing it about 5 years, right? And I was only in it about, I think I was in it 14 months or something at this stage. So I knew, like, it's something special, you know. I was like, Jesus, that's a bit strange, you know what I mean? I'm going by him. He's a good athlete, like. And I finished that in a really good time. I think it was 10:20 or something, which is a good time for over there. Like, it's a respectable time for my second Ironman. So someone said to me, maybe you should go pro. And that little boy came back to me when I was a kid and said, maybe you could go pro, you know. So I looked up the time, and it was sub 9:30 to be a professional triathlete in Ireland. So you had to go under sub 9:30.
You were
And
close enough, yeah.
uh,
You were close-ish at that stage, yeah.
at 10:20 I was on a tough course. So yeah, I was going into bike shops, getting my bike fixed, telling them I'm going for my pro license, and they were literally laughing at me, going, I don't think so. Like, you know, I was only in the sport a rainy day. But yeah, people didn't know what I went through and what I was putting into the sport, and I was doing it at an extreme level. So I was going out and doing 100K, picking random days of the week. Just say, for instance, on the 4th of February, I'd go right on the 14th of February or the 15th of February. I'm doing 100K no matter what at 3 in the morning. And that was a tester for my mind to see, can I do that? And when the alarm went off at 2:30, I'd bounce up out of bed and get the 100K done at 3. And I remember going out, and it'd be torrential rain, and I couldn't even feel my shins getting off the bike. But it was just to prove to myself I wanted this so much. So I trained really hard for it. And I remember turning up in Barcelona, the same race I went to watch my friend, the first one. I turned up in that 2 years later, 22 months after I took up the sport of triathlon. So I was 22 months in it, and I turned up there and I stood on the beach, and I remember saying, I'm going to do this today. Like, this is going to happen. You know, I've done everything. Um, Done the swim, done a really good swim. Same on the bike, and you know, on the bike, you aren't going to have to get a puncher or something. So, you know your times, you know your many kilometers you have to do an hour. So all this is working out, and I'm on for this time. I get into the marathon part of it. I had to do a 307 or 308 marathon to secure the license, right? Uh, so I'm I'm on for this the license, and I'm I've 5K to go, and I think I've 25 minutes to do 5K, and I'm well enough because I know I'm well able for 5 minutes a kilometer. So I'm well enough. My throat is closing on me because I'm going. My family are standing at the finish line with an Ireland flag. They visit me in prison about 2.5 years ago. They're coming down to visit me in prison, and here's me coming onto a big red carpet, 10 deep each side, and my family has the oil flag. And like, it was just, you know, it was just dreaming. I couldn't believe it. It was like a dream. And I remember coming onto the carpet and getting the flag and hugging my wife and my kids, and it was unreal. Like, I was just like so proud, and a moment that it's hard to explain, you know. And when I went through the finish line, I turned and pointed at the clock, and it was 9:25, and I was like, "Fuck you, stop," you know, not in a bad way, but you know, it was in a sense because I was like, they all wrote me off, you know, but I fucking done it. You know what I mean? And there was so many, like, there's so many different things that motivated me to do that, and like there was a couple of things I knew I'd get a platform to go into prisons and schools and talk about this because I wanted to help so many people because I'd been in such a bad place for so long, like such a bad place that I thought I'd never turn it around. And here's me doing this. So that was a motivating factor during the training. If I do this, I can go into schools and prisons. If I do this, I can inspire my kids. If I can do this, I can show my family that it can be done. You know, there's so many different things. If I do this, losing being a pro as a kid, I can sort of redeem myself and get a good feeling from that, and that'll help me in my own life. You know, so there's so many different motivating factors. So yeah, look, I done it. I was delighted. It gave me a platform. I went to schools. I went to prisons. I give talks. But you know what? The best thing has come out of that. Well, there's a couple of things, but best job that's come out of that is I got a job as a coach in Oberstown Juvenile Centre, teaching kids out there, venting a negative into a positive, but also use my experience from the streets to tell them that it's not worth it. You know, there's only two ways out: it's prison and it's death. And they tend to listen to me because I've been there and I know how to talk to them. Where someone goes in with a degree that hasn't been there, they tend not to listen. You can't tell me to shut up, but I don't know because I know it's like for the door to be banged out. Do you know what I mean? So that's what's come out of it. But look, there's a whole other story then.
So sorry, if I could cut in and ask you, the discipline required to train for Jesus for like even a marathon, even if you hadn't been doing Ironman triathlons, like the discipline required would be incredible. And by the sounds of it, the life you lived pre-prison was almost like the opposite of a disciplined life. It kind of sounded very chaotic and without structure. So what was geez, what was it like transitioning from something like that to like the incredible amount of discipline it required to train for triathlon?
You know, once I made that decision in my head, something switched out in my head when my son was born, and the factors that come up to even my friend losing his life and me seeing that the kid coming up into the coffin, like it was like it was all, you know, it was like it was all done for a reason. I seen all this, I was meant to change. It's strange as it may sound. Like, I know my friend didn't lose his life for me to make a lesson, but I got the positives out of it. And I was there witnessing what this kid was doing, looking for his dad. I mean, if that hadn't happened, I don't know. Would it changed? That was a light bulb moment for me to realize that kids don't need money, they don't need material, they need love, you know. And we were all willing to give our prized possessions to have our friend back, which meant the prized possessions meant nothing. That our friends meant more and our family meant more. So that was a lesson in itself. And then my son was born, and then I suppose when my father treated me, I didn't want to treat my son, you know. So yeah, it was all like a journey. And then that was my motivating factor. Then once I gave up the gang, then I hadn't got the gang anymore, so I needed something else. But the trauma is what made me go training because I needed something. to fulfill the drugs and the drink and whatever else I was doing. And the sports just took that over. So I took that at an extreme level. And I made that my number one priority over my family, over everything, you know, which isn't healthy because it's at an extreme level. But that's how I was able to be so disciplined, because I was using it as a crutch for trauma. That's the truth. Like. And now that I've worked on myself, so I went to counseling and psychology and all that, and I understand the trauma, and I understand a lot more about it. I've got it all out in my system, 90% of it. Now I don't need to train as much, you know. So I'm spending more quality time with my family. I couldn't sit in the house with my family because it triggered me trauma. When I sent my kids, it triggered trauma, and I needed to be away in the house. I treated my wife like I treated my mother, because I didn't look up to my mother. But because my wife was in the house, that was learned experiences that I treated her like my mother, which is wrong. How my wife's still with me to this day, I'll never know. She's a good woman. She's kept me strong, and she's been a rock throughout this. Very grateful to have her in my life, and the fact that she's still here is a blessing in itself, you know, because I don't know if I could stay if she done if she done what I done in her. I don't know if I'd have the strength to stay and be here for her. So, no hats off. I'll make up to her, and I'll be the best man now. You know, I am a real good man now. I can feel it in myself. I'm very proud of myself. I'm holding confidence. I'm not giving in to crutches anymore because I had to let go of all that trauma, and that's one of the hardest things you have to do is let go of the crutches. How to deal with trauma is let go of the crutches. You don't understand the force, but you need to let go of them crutches and you need to face it. Yeah. If you let go of the crutches, there's only one way you have to face it. Then you can't go over there and forget about it and go on the drugs for 2 nights and forget about it for 2 days. You know, like that's how a lot of addicts become addicts, because they can't sit with their trauma, so you just go on the drugs. It's so hard. I'm not. That was the toughest thing I've ever had to do was give away the crutches and face my trauma over any Ironman. That was the toughest thing I've ever to do. So it's a
Really?
tough thing to do, you know.
I was going to ask you, I suppose the sport that you excelled in before was very much a team sport, you know, soccer, and you went to a sport that's, you know, very much individual. It's, you know, I mean, there is a team in a sense, people who prepare you, but it's you and only you on the day. Did you did you like either one more? Did one suit you at different times of your life, maybe?
Do you know what? Recently, I've done a TV program. It'll be released in March, I think it is. It's called Me Machines. It's basically ex-prisoners and prisoners playing Gaelic football. So they could never play Gaelic football. So we recently played in Crow Park. And 2 weeks ago we played a match and then trained and then played in Crow Park. And I had an awesome time last week in Crow Park. Like just being part of a team and being part of the lads and having the camaraderie in the dressing room before and after. I felt so alive, and it was so different than an individual sport. So I think I needed the individual sport to get out of the crime and to vent me trauma through. I think I needed that at that time. But now I'm quite happy to be part of a team. I'd love to be. But at the minute I'm training for a sub 230 marathon. So for this year, I got asked to join a soccer team. I was gonna join a soccer team, but you know what? My legs, I'm not messing with you, I'm getting old. Because every time I played the goal, it took me about 3 days to recover because I'm using different muscles. So I'm going to concentrate on my goal of a sub 230 for this year, and then next year I might take up a team sport.
I see. Tell me a bit about tell me a bit of how you got into the role at the juvenile I guess you call it a prison, yeah. One of my very earliest guests is an ex cop who runs I think there's about three of them. There's three boxing gyms in some of New York's kind of rougher areas. And it's free for like teens and young fellas, and they get trained by cops and by former participants in the program. And he said that with a lot of them, they're, you know, they're tough street kids, like, so they come in and they kind of have a bit of a front, a bit of a shield. Was that something you see with the boys in there too?
Yeah, like I mean, a lot of the boys in there, like they'd be damaged, you know that way. Like you can see it straight away. Like they're standoffish. Some of them don't come near me for a while. A lot of the remand lads that come over initially, they'll walk by the room and they'll just look in, and then it might be take them 3 or 4 weeks. A lot of the kids need to know what the structure is first to understand. I was the same. I need to know where I was going, what was happening, who was in there, why he was in there, and then they come over and suss you out. Like it took me. I started 2 years ago. I went there. So initially, how I got in there was I was giving talks in the prisons, but I wanted to get on. I wanted to get into the kids actually, but there was a lad I was coaching actually. Um, Name is Baldy. Um, but I was coaching a guy that played Gar, right? But his friend was like the governor out there, right? And he sent him a video of me because I had a couple of videos going around that the Independent done, and he sent him a video, and they asked me to go out and give talks initially. So there's different units out in Oberstown. There's like 6 or 7 units. So I gave a talk out in every unit. So 7 or something units. I gave a talk in each unit every week, done one talk, one talk. And it made such an impact on them. They were talking about it made such an impact on each of the kids that they asked me, is there anything you think you could do on a permanent basis? So I said, yeah, I'd love to build a gym because it helped me bend the negative into a positive. And then when you're in a healthy position, you can make healthy decisions. I believe once you're fit and healthy, you'll start making other decisions that are healthy, and which is exactly what I done. Like it gives you strength. Fitness gives you strength. It makes you strong. So yeah, they gave me an investment. I got 2 watt bikes, which are expensive, 2 Apple TVs, and I have Swift on them, which is a game and a bike and online game. And you know what? Well, it's an online game called Swift, and the bikes hook up to the TV, and when they cycle, the avatar on the bike moves, right? So it's worked a dream. Then I have 2 treadmills and 2 rowers. So the rowers is like the swim, the bike is the bike, and then the run is on the treadmill. So that's what I have out there now. And I take 2 kids for 45 minutes on Thursday for 4 classes, and Wednesday for 4 classes, and Friday for 4 classes. So I have 16 kids altogether. And I have them doing sprint triathlons. 3 of them have done a sprint triathlon so far, which is amazing. And I have 6 others now on a sprint triathlon. And two of the lads that done the sprint triathlon last time are doing the Olympic now. So amazing work, and they're getting so much out. And you know what's happening? They're finding. So when they go back to the units, it's not officers over there, they're social workers. When they go back to the units, the social workers are there. They contain them in units. They have their rooms, and they have other rooms like to watch TV, and they have kitchens and that. But when they go back over, they're tired and they don't cause any messing. They're tired, they eat, and they go to bed. So they're noticing a big impact, and their behaviors are changing. And then some of the kids out there, right? I only found this out yesterday. So they have 4 classes a day in the afternoon, and they give. So if a kid's a little bit of a messer, they put me last, and they go, if you're messing them 3 classes, you won't be going to Ger's class. Isn't that great? so they use me, but they enjoy it that much that they can use it as don't mess or you won't be going to Ger's. Like I thought that was excellent in a sense, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's going really well, and I'm delighted to be able to help the kids because you know what? Sometimes they come in on their own, and I'm able to have a good chat with them about life, about my experience and losing my mother and father, and what entailed that, and what trauma it's about, and how to fix it, and what's the best route, and it just gives them a bit of knowledge around it coming from me that I've been there to say, well, what I tell them, okay, no one's coming back to help you. They don't, John. No one comes near you. There's no like you get all this help, but ultimately no one really comes back for you. You have to grab the reins yourself and change your own life. It has to come from you. And this is what I tell them: don't be waiting on anyone. If you want a good life, you got to get after yourself. You got to make changes, get fit, go for counseling, get this out. Because if you don't, you're just going to lash out all the time. You need to face up to your fears. You need to face up your trauma. That's the only way out. That is the only way out, is to put work into yourself.
I see what you mean. I know what you mean. You mentioned a minute or two ago about just literally just the benefits that come from actually just tiring out like a teenager. With boys, teenage boys, incredible. The amount of energy they have it's ridiculous. And that energy can go into positive ways or negative. And yeah, just actually physically tiring out a young fella will I don't know. You can just avoid a lot of these stupid things that come up when a fella's like pent up and full of energy.
Yeah,
Um.
absolutely.
I meant to ask you, have you you said it's been about 2 years working at Oberstown?
So I'm there about 2 years. I was out there, done the talks, and then I was waiting for the gym to be built. The gym officially opened in May of last year. So before that, I was there the May before, and I've done all the talks. But I went out every week to introduce myself to the lads, mix around the different classes. I was going to their school classes, sit there, say hello, getting them used to me before the gym actually opened. So when the gym opened, I built up a relationship with them. They knew who I was, and then it was easy for them to come over to me. Do you know what I mean? And I was telling them, we're opening up next week. Make sure you're there. So I thought that was a good way of doing it. So that's what I done. And Oberstown agreed. So that's what we done. Yeah. So I'm there 2 years nearly now.
I see. It might be a bit too short of a time for this to happen. But do you know of any? Do you know of any fellas who you did a bit of work with and now they're out? And you've got to see kind of what direction they went, or has it been a bit too early for that?
Yeah, there is one lad got out. He's from Cork, and he's actually teaching free classes in the evening. He's doing an apprenticeship at the minute, and he's actually teaching free classes in the evening, free sports classes in the evening, 3 times a week, free for other kids. Isn't that amazing? And another lad only got out there a few weeks ago, and actually I'm coaching him online.
It's amazing. They're doing they're kind of replicating what you did in a
Yeah,
sense.
it's
It's like a
just
multiplying effect.
you know what it's doing for me. It's to show them a different tool, because for me, I tell them, look at when you feel them emotions coming, don't go for the drink, don't go for the drugs, go for a run. And just to give them that sort of thought process that, look, I'll try that. And then when they come back, they get a good feeling about it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to give them the other tool to go on the other side of the road rather than going on the bad side. And once they have that option, when the emotions come or when the shit hits the fan, at least they have that option and they know that works for me, and they get the good feeling inside in the prison. So that for me is to install that in them would be gold if they take it on board, you know.
But before you got like the permanent position, you said you were doing talks. So what would given that you only have like, I don't know how long the talk would be, but what would you try to focus on? What would be like the core message to get to these fellas?
Just belief, I suppose. The core message really for me when to kids like that is that no one comes back for you. You need to grab it. You need to grab the bull with the horns. If you want a better life, you need to make a better life. If you want to get out of this situation, you need to get yourself out of this situation. There's no one. That's because I thought that. I thought someone's messing here. Like someone's gonna come back and help me and guide me and show me this is the way you go. They don't. It's only when you say I need self help. I need to actually look after myself here. You can be there for others, but you never leave yourself behind. You have to look after yourself, and that's the only way you're going to make a better life. No one's going to do it for you. There's plenty of people there will help you, but you have to make that decision that I want better for myself. And as I told them, look, when you have kids, if you didn't like the way you were brought up or the way you were treated, don't bring that onto the next generation. So change your generation is another thing I bring to them. Change your generation is a beautiful thing when you think about it. If you can change your whole dynamics generation, and then your kids pass that on to their kids, and in years' time, they're going to look back and you're going to be that divider. You're going to be that hero to go, we changed this whole direction, but he changed it. He was in charge of that. Because you get an opportunity when your generation comes up, that's your opportunity to pass on new traits and create a different generation if you choose it, because that's their choice. So that's what I chose to do. I had the opportunity. I felt this is my time in this generation. This is me representing the Redmond name. And I'm going to represent it in a good way. And I'm going to send it this way. And this is where we're going. We're away from that. Like I got a new tattoo in my hand, and I probably won't see it, but I'll just show it to you briefly. But that's my prison number, right? And that's me leading my son away from crime up the right road towards the mountains. You see it?
Towards the light, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Because we're walking away from crime on the right road towards the light. You
That's
know?
beautiful.
Yeah. So that's me changing my whole generation. And there's the other one is that's the tree. You see that? See, the generation is in the palms of our hands, and they're the roots created by the woman and the man, the wife and the husband. And we give the roots to the kids. We create our own, and they follow in our footsteps. That's that. Like when you get that opportunity to, it's a very beautiful thing to change that generation and change your own learned habits, bad habits from your parents, and create new ones. Such a nice thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the fact that a young fellow would end up in prison or in like a juvenile prison, it means that their problems, their kind of dysfunction has already got to a certain stage, you know. So I think in general, I mean, it's accepted like prevention is better. So this may be more hypothetical, but if you had like some kind of like unlimited budget and a team and stuff, would there be anything that you could think of that you would do to prevent fellas from getting as far as a prison or a juvenile thing, you know?
Yeah. So what they need is this is what I want to do. I'm going to try and piece it together. What we need is a super youth center, like Oberstown, right? But not a prison. We need Oberstown on the outside as a pilot scheme with all the service that Oberstown give because it's such a unique place. It's you want to see the people out there that they're so nice, John. They're lovely people. They look after the kids. They want the best for the kids. They 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 bring positivity to their life all the time. They're so good and the help is great and they've all these services, right? But when the kids get out, they don't have anything like that. And I'm not saying it's a waste of time, but in a sense it is a waste of time because you're pumping all this money in, like, you know how much it is to hold a kid in Overstown for a year? You're not gonna believe it. It's €360,000 per annum per child per year in Overstown. 360 grand, right? If you if so just say for instance Darndale is most of the kids are coming from Darndale, right? Say three kids come from Darndale, and that's €1 million. If you put €1 million into a project, a pilot scheme project for a super youth centre, where you have a psychologist on site 5 to 7 days a week, you have a counsellor, you have a gym for the sports, you have homework, stuff like that, stuff the kids need, Wi-Fi rooms, because you have to dangle a carrot for kids to get them into the rooms. If we can do that and have a super youth centre where we're helping the kids, like Oberstown is, you're going to prevent kids from going in there, and you're going to save every kid that doesn't go in. You're saving the taxpayer 360 grand. It's a no-brainer for me. There's been nothing being done on a preventative measure in their country. The crime rate has gone up. It's gone up like by 20% in the last 2 years. You know what I mean? Like it's not going down. So we're doing something wrong. Kids in growing up in an environment like Darndale are 23 times more likely to go to prison than any other areas, and 23 times more likely to go back to prison than any other areas. I mean, that's a letdown from the government. There's not enough services. Like we shouldn't be fighting crime. We should be fighting trauma, because a lot of these crimes are coming from trauma. And you know what the thing is? Just because my wife made a great point to that to me, because trauma is not a physical thing, we dismiss it, right?
Because you can't see it, you can't see it
Can't
with
see
your
it.
eyes. Yeah.
You can't see it because if trauma created a lump on your head like cancer does, you know what I mean? Like you'd be straight in and you'd be under the telescope and you'd be diagnosed and whatever it may be. But because we can't see it, it's dismissed, you know, and it shouldn't be dismissed because I believe it's 90% of the cause of why the kids out in Oberstown are in that prison. It's 90% of the cause of why the people are in prison in the jails. And it's not going to stop until we actually put trauma centres into these deprived areas and other areas. But you need the pilot scheme, something. We need to change the record and try something because it's going around the roundabout. And what we need to do is pull them off the roundabout because, if you change one kid in the generation, you're going to change the people coming up behind them. That's how we do it. And that's my theory on it. And that's me of experience of 25 years of trauma, probably more because it started when I was a kid. So I'm probably 35 years of trauma since I'm probably five. That's my experience. And that's where I'd be fixing it. Don't fight crime, fight trauma.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. It's we're kind of going after the symptoms as opposed to the problem.
It's all after the fact. We lock them up and then they go into prison and we give all these services. But it's after the fact. It's no good. we need to prevent it. We need to prevent it, and we need to get in there early to the 10, 11, 12-year-olds. Give them the initiative and show them what's happening is wrong, and give them different tools and explain to them what's happening, and explain that this is not right, and give them an understanding on it, and show them a bit of love and a bit of emotion. I didn't even know how to love people or hug people or have any emotions. I couldn't even name an emotion. I still can't name emotion. Like, you can name the main ones: sad, happy, and laughing, but there's other emotions I haven't got a clue when it happens. I wouldn't even know how to name them. I mean, it's just you weren't shown. So, if you're not showing love, you're just going to be showing hate. You're going to just hate the world, you know?
I was going to say among lads as well. I think it's a lot less accepted to show emotions other than like angry. That's one of the very acceptable ones among fellas. It's perfectly okay um to go into a rage. It's almost not considered being emotional, but it is.
Yeah. But it's, we're letting society down. There's not enough being done. There's not enough being done,
Um, on, on that note, any plans for the future in terms of your job, what you do, the future events, working with the youth?
So if a new job starting now in Darndale, it's basically going around with a team of like-minded people, and we're going to try and get the certain kids out there that don't actually interact with services at all. They just stand in the streets. They don't interact whatsoever. So there's a new team after being created, and I'm after being offered a position there to go around in the streets and actually get the lads to interact, or the girls to interact, try and get them into the services and try and help them out, because it's them kids as well that needs a bit of attention and a bit of help. So that's on the front of it, like, so that'd be an interesting, because you know what, it's gonna open up new thoughts for me, and try and think of new ways of how do you get these kids to interact. What do we do to get them to interact? You know what I mean? Because there is certain things. Some of them kids won't even talk to you. You walk up, they tell you, do you know what I mean? Go away. So that'd be a challenge. You know what I mean? I like challenges like that. So you have to just try and not get hooked them or not be snaky about it, but in a nice way. For their good in the long run, that way. So that'd be interesting. That'd be challenging. I'm looking forward to that. In terms of the prison would love to have me out there 5 days a week, but I have a family, and I'm actually enjoying being at home now. I'm enjoying the time with my wife, enjoying the time with my family. I come into the house now. I'm happy to be in my home. The trauma I have put not an end to it. I could still have me bad days, but I know I have it by the throat. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go back to using the crutches or anything like that. But so I'm happy to be in my home, and I'm enjoying the time at home, and enjoying the family time and that. So I don't want to be away too much, but um, there is other things that I'm after asking in Oberstown. I asked for something else that's coming in the summer. So I can't really say, because there'll be a lot of jealous people out there if I say it, and they might put in a petition or something so it doesn't happen. So I'll wait till it's out there, and then I can reveal. But there's big things happening in Overtown, and that you know what, they're great out there. The lads are out there, John and a few other lads, Barry and that. They're fucking great. It's like anything I asked for, they're just on board. You know what I mean? They're really, really supportive, and it's great to see, because they want the best for the kids. And I see myself as one of the kids. I don't see myself as such as a worker. I see myself as one of them. And I was at a trauma course there a while ago, and there's a couple of stories went around. There's kids out there born addicts. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's like, people don't see that in the root cause of why kids are where they are. Like, they just think, oh, they're scumbags, and they just see the crime. You know what I mean? They don't actually see what's behind the crime. There's kids out there like that were born junkies. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, we have to have some empathy. You have to look further than the crime that was committed. And why did he commit that crime? Why is he 14 and committing that crime? Like, there's a lot more to it. And people should look at what's behind it, and not be so easy to point the finger. And maybe look into it a bit more. That way, because you can get information out there. Like, if you want to help out in youth centres in the private areas, and figure out a little bit more rather than point the finger. You know what I mean? And help out would be more appropriate.
I see. I see. Is there anything? Is there anything you wanted to leave us with there? Anything? Anything you want the listeners to know before we head off?
No, just what I was saying there. Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover. Um, kids out there have bad lives. People out there are traumatized, and we just don't know what goes behind closed doors. So have a little bit of empathy, and you might just cheer someone up and just be nice to them. True redemption is when guilt leads to good as well, because when you feel guilty about like not being there for your wife or you're there for your kids, it can lead to good if you can change yourself. So I feel true redemption is when guilt leads to good. But
Very good.
anyone can change. If I can change, anyone can change. Because I was in a deep dark hole for many years and never thought I'd get out of it. And look at even becoming a professional athlete, that wasn't the pinnacle of my career, or that wasn't the pinnacle of my life. Pinnacle of my life was becoming a father and a husband. That was the main thing in the end that I'm most proud of. Like all the medals I won as a pro, they mean a lot to me, but my family mean the most to me. And to have my family as a secure unit now is a true generation change. And that's the winning formula. So although the sport is great and we have all these plaques and trophies, your family is the number one. So always respect your family and put them first, and square your shit up at home first before you square anything else up.
Very good. Very good. Thanks very much for sitting down with me. I appreciate you taking the time and going through everything everything you spoke about. Very personal, very intimate stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to use your platform, John.
Not a bother, not a bother. I'm looking forward to see what'd you say the name of that TV show was again? Mean Machines,
Me and Machine,
like
yeah.
the
Yeah. So it should be good. It was supposed to be against the officers of Mountjoy, but something happened there. So we ended up playing Ballymun Kicking, which are a really good team. We've done very well now. I won't give away what the score was, but it was a great match. I really enjoyed it, and the lads played excellent. And there was 10 lads from the progression unit, which was in prison at the time that got out. So they were secured in the prison. You know what I mean? So that was great. That was good to see them out, and that the prison service, the IPS, let them out. That was good for that. You know what I mean? It's good to see that they're actually giving them the opportunity to engage in shows like that. You know what I mean? Giving them the
yeah.
trust.
Yeah,
You know?
I was about to say showing them the trust
Yeah,
and respect that they that they trust them to behave
yeah,
themselves on it. Yeah, very
yeah,
good. Good stuff. Thank you very much. Maybe we'll speak again in the future now if there's
yeah.
any more developments. I'd love that.
No problem. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, sir. Appreciate it.